Now, the last time you came out to Australia, you were playing the lute for an album of 16th century music. Yeah. This time you're playing alongside an orchestra, two very different styles. Is that about a transformation, reinvention, or is it about challenging yourself as a musician?
No, I just get bored easily doing the same thing every time I go out, and so any excuse to do something completely different, I will grasp with both hands. I mean, the opportunity to play with an orchestra like this, the Melbourne Symphony, it doesn't come along every day, you know. I mean, there's so many singer-songwriters in the world. How many of us get the chance to work with an orchestra and hear our songs interpreted in this orchestral fashion? Not that many. So for me, it's a wonderful privilege. It's a huge honor, and it's very exciting to hear the songs dressed up in different clothes, you know.
Every little thing she does is magic. Everything she do just turn me on. Even though my life before was...
Because I think songs are like living organisms. Unless you constantly reinvent them, you allow them to evolve, they become museum pieces.
Several years ago, you said that you were addicted to India and that you'd like to explore the country a lot more. Is that the reason why you've chosen to incorporate Indian sounds into a few of your albums, in particular Sacred Love?
You know, I like traveling in India probably more than any other country. I like to go walking, and I've taken a lot of pilgrim routes where you just sleep on the roadside and no one knows who the hell you are, which I really like. I find it a stimulating country on many, many levels. Certainly creatively, it's a very beautiful country, but the culture itself is so ancient and there's so many layers to it that you'll never get to the end of it. And yeah, bringing Indian music into pop music is, you know, something the Beatles did. It's not I didn't originate that thing, but it certainly interests me.
We'll return to the Symphonicity tour. You play a lot of your hits from the days with the Police. Roxanne, I think, particularly lends itself to this classical version. It's quite magic. Are you happy with how the old hits have turned out?
In a way, it's like buying your wife a new dress, you know. It reminds you of why you fell in love with her in the first place, you know. So when you hear a song in this wonderful orchestral setting, it changes the meaning slightly. It changes the meaning of the song. Roxanne, in this context, is much more romantic.
Roxanne, don't answer pull on red light. Roxanne.
And I'm learning more and more about the orchestra every time we play, and kind of inspired to try and write specifically for an orchestra, not just shoehorn my music into orchestral music, to try and specifically write orchestral music. I'll try anyway.
While we're on the topic of the Police, what was it like getting back together with the band for the reunion tour in 2007 and 2008?
Some of it was great, some very nostalgic. Some of it was awful. It was like I'm back to an old marriage with all the blessings and all the curses that go along with it. You know, it was a very successful tour. I'm certainly happy we did it. A lot of people came, millions of people came. They loved it. And then you're going to say, will we do it again? Probably not, no.
Every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching.
I'm proud of what we did. Don't get me wrong. At the same time, do I want to keep doing that? No.
You and your wife, Trudy Styler, have long campaigned against deforestation, poverty and human rights, particularly in China. Your wife has been banned from the country since the 1990s after her documentary on Tiananmen Square massacre, and you yourself were a part of that, and also you contributed to songs to Tibet in support of Tibet and the Dalai Lama. Has that had any repercussions in terms of performing in China for you?
Not really. I mean, I haven't been invited to perform in China, but I don't think it's because of my political involvement, or indeed Trudy's. But you know, I'd like to play in China, obviously. But you know, human rights is important. You can't separate human rights from joining the world. And so yeah, we'll carry on saying that.
China's President Hu Jintao has recently acknowledged that a lot still needs to be done in terms of human rights. Do you think that the actions of artists like yourself and others can make a difference on the ground in countries like China?
Well, I believe in commerce, the commerce of ideas, the commerce of art, the commerce of music. And it's only through that societies will change, by trading these ideas. I don't think cultural embargoes work. I think maybe in the case of South Africa it worked, but that's an isolated case. Generally, they just make a country more and more paranoid and more enclosed. So I believe that going there and playing there and seeding ideas in people's minds is what we should do. Often, as a musician, you're playing to a group of young people who may become the political class of a country, who may one day have power, and those ideas can bear fruit. So you can't change the world with a song overnight, but certainly you can have something that maybe 20 years down the line might work.